All right, I'm going to talk about two things that need to happen for this rally to actually be real. And then I'm going to talk about Zcash, which has been going up a lot, and also Clash, which a lot of people have been talking about. And I think that'll be enjoyable. So let's actually talk about two things that need to happen for this kind of bull run to be real and for it to finally trigger. I know a lot of you are saying, well, look at that. The government shutdown triggered the bull run. Maybe. But I think that's a short-term thing, maybe a day or maybe a week or so, unless the government opens back up. Now, I do think that the government shutdown has gotten more people into crypto because there's less trust in the government now, and since crypto is not part of the government, there's more trust in crypto right now. So some people are piling in, looking for an alternative. But the government has shut down before, and a lot of people think it's just all political theater. So they're not really afraid of a government shutdown. However, if it doesn't open up in like 10 days, 2 weeks, I do think people will really start to get afraid. I mean, people are going to start to get furloughed or fired. Trump has already signaled that, and that's going to cause some worries. And of course, a lot of federal funding for certain projects, like not even like federal government projects, but a lot of federal funding for private projects is also going to start lagging during this shutdown. So companies are going to get kind of like worried as well if it doesn't, if it doesn't resolve itself in 10 days. If it goes over a month, it's definitely bad. But I put like 14 days or half a month as that cutoff point to where if the government doesn't open back up, it's going to be really, really bad for the markets. And I think that will affect crypto as well because people are going to start being a lot more conservative with their money if they think there's going to be a prolonged shutdown that's going to affect all sectors of the economy and all sectors of the market. You look at the last shutdown, which was the record long shutdown that was also under Trump in 2018, 2019. I think he also controlled both. I think the Republicans also controlled both houses of Congress at that point as well. And the market did actually dip about 10%, at least crypto did. Now, it's not nearly as big of a dip as some people would actually think because they did actually open the thing up after 35 days, but there was a cost and it did cost the government a lot of money to actually shut down at that point. So a long-term shutdown doesn't actually benefit the markets of crypto, I don't think. A short-term one might because we kind of got to pump because people have more faith in crypto than the government in the short term. And I think if the government opens back up, people will be happy and then we'll get another pump. So we basically get a double pump when the government opens back up. But if it goes for longer than 2 weeks, I do think people will get nervous and that will trickle down to the rest of the market, which is very, very bad for us. So that's the first thing that needs to happen. It's shut down, that's fine, but we do need it to open back up within the next 2 weeks or so. The second thing is we need those rate cuts, and that actually does tie in with the first thing. Because remember, the CPI data, the BLS, that depends on the government being open for that data to come out. Now, it doesn't necessarily depend on the government because the Fed's not really a governmental agency entity. They're supposed to be like an independent entity, and they will operate regardless if the government shuts down or not. But the Fed is very data dependent, and the CPI and the BLS report, like the labor numbers, can't come out if the government is actually shut down. Now, some people are saying that that's Trump's plan. The labor numbers are bad, so he wants to shut the government down so those numbers don't come out. I personally don't believe that. I mean, it'd be more believable if you told me he didn't want the Epstein files to come out and that's why the government's shut down, but I still don't really believe that. But either way, the BLS and the CPI are probably going to be delayed and won't come out if the government doesn't actually shut down. And some people are saying that's good because if the CPI is really high, Powell is less likely to cut rates. But Powell needs that data to make decisions, and Powell could possibly delay any further rate cuts without that data coming out because he needs to know that the labor situation is still somewhat deteriorating and getting less good, and the CPI is still low. If he doesn't know that, he could make the assumption that the CPI is growing and the labor numbers are holding flat, and that really wouldn't be good for us. We don't really know what Jerome Powell's going to do, but if the data comes out, we know kind of like what he's thinking, and that's more likely probably to get us a rate cut. Now, I still think it's more likely than not that when he has the FOMC meeting on the October 17th through 18th, that he will cut another quarter basis point, because basically like he'll probably work on the data from the previous report, but it's going to get very, very sticky if we miss like this CPI and BLS report, because he won't have the most recent data to work with. And remember, he's already cut once based on the August report. So he might not want to cut again just based on that report without new data coming out. So that actually might jeopardize part of the bull run if the government doesn't open up by that point, and if the BLS and the CPI data doesn't actually come out at that point. Like, he might not have like any kind of real basis to actually operate on to decide whether or not he wants the cut. And we all know Jerome Powell generally errs on the side of caution, so there is a very, very real chance that he doesn't cut, which would ostensibly suck for us. So that's part of the reason we need the government to actually open up. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, like, if they just lay off a bunch of people, that will like not be good with the labor numbers. If they open back up before the FOMC meeting, which I think there's like a 70% chance they actually will, the labor numbers are going to be worse than what's reported, and Powell might actually be induced to do another cut or even bigger cuts than we thought. So those are the two things we need to happen: the cuts, obviously, and also the government opening up in the next 2 weeks. So that would be, I think that would provide the basis for a true bull run. So the other thing I want to talk about is Zcash rally and Georgia stablecoin. Now we'll talk about the Zcash rally first, because I actually have a reason why Zcash is rallying, and it is because of Grayscale's Zcash fund. There are people like putting more money into that specific fund, and that fund is actually like buying Zcash, of course, which is why Zcash has exploded about 170% in 5 days. So there is no single on-chain or protocol level catalyst that neatly explains the surge. Instead, a confluence of factors has seemingly pulled ZEC into the center of crypto's attention cycle. First, the privacy theme itself has re-entered the conversation at the ecosystem level. So like, I guess like the privacy theme is re-entered because, people want to somehow avoid taxes, launder money, and all that stuff. And since the bull run might be heating back up, there's a lot of money involved, so there might be a little bit more interest. So on October 1st, the Ethereum Foundation formalized new leadership for its privacy cluster, an organizational standards-driven push to coordinate privacy-preserving research and infrastructure, signaling that major actors in the crypto are again foregrounding user confidentiality and data minimization as core priorities. That announcement, while not Zcash specific, helps set the tone for a broader market repricing of privacy. So that does definitely help, because there's not that many protocols that focus on there's not that many protocols that actually focus on privacy, and this might be one of the ones that actually focus on privacy. And second, the influential market voices amplified ZEC directly. There's a couple of people that were like basically shilling Zcash, saying that Bitcoin is insurance against Zcash and Zcash is insurance against Bitcoin, plus the Grayscale stuff. And I definitely think that that has helped it. Plus, like Monero is the other big competitor. It's gone up a little bit too, but not as much as Zcash. Monero is a $5 billion coin, and somehow Zcash are below 700 million. So they see Zcash has a much bigger room to actually grow. So like, the funding, Ethereum's refocus on privacy, and of course Zcash is being a lower cap coin than Monero, plus all the Grayscale funding, the Grayscale funds. That's what's actually caused Zcash to actually come back up. Now let's talk about Georgia's Clash coin, because I think that's an interesting topic for a lot of people. Last time I checked, which was just 2 hours ago, it was around $60 million in market cap, which is a pretty big market cap, especially for a YouTuber coin. Some people are thinking that can go to $1 billion, and I actually do agree with them. George is one of the biggest crypto tubers around. He has a very big community, and a lot of meme coins or tuber coins depend on the community. But George's coin actually does have a purpose, which is better than pretty much all the other meme coins and stuff. They don't really have a purpose. And there are going to be a lot of people that hold his coin. Now, I think the cutoff, like to participate in his prizes and stuff, is that you have to hold about $200 worth of the Clash coin. And he's adjusted the amount of Clash coins you need as it has gone up. At the time of the recording of this video, it's about 6.6 cents. So you roughly need about 3,000 of those coins, or about $200 to participate. They're kind of weekly prizes. You can, win up to like 6 Solana or something. And the thing is, I don't think he's actually paying for the prizes out of his own pocket, which is big for him because then he would actually have to sell some coins to actually pay for the prizes. But he has sponsors. Recently, Snek has actually joined. So a lot of these kind of like other coins that want to promote themselves have actually like started to collaborate or sponsor with George, and they're putting up the money or the coins for these prizes. So he doesn't have to sell any of the coins to actually put up for these prizes. So it's actually a pretty brilliant plan. I mean, he's a very well-known YouTuber. He has, he gets 60, 70,000 views per video. His live stream gets like thousands of viewers. So immediately he's got hundreds, if not thousands of people in his Clash of Clans thing, and they all have to hold 200 Bitcoin, $200 worth, which isn't that much. But when you're talking about $200 worth holding, and you're talking about thousands of people holding, that's several $1 million of essentially TVL, which obviously is going to pump his coin up. Obviously, I still think he has by far the most coins, but that just kind of restricts supply as well. But like, there's not probably a huge amount of selling going on in his coins because there's so many people that are holding for his Clash of Clans. Obviously, you only need to hold 200, and you can get prizes up to 6 Solana, which is 1,200. So it's kind of like buying a lottery ticket, except you don't have to keep buying every single week. You can just keep holding what you have, which to a lot of people is a much bigger deal. Plus, those coins are still worth something. Like if you buy a lottery ticket, it doesn't win, it's worthless. Those coins are still worth something, and if you want to sell it later, they're still worth that amount of money, or they'll actually appreciate. So he's actually come up with a mechanism that actually essentially locks in value like TVL that provides people value for holding the coin, and he's got a big community to actually do it. I think it's actually a pretty genius move. And if I play Clash of Clans, I might do something like that too, but I don't, and I don't really have any interest of actually making a coin. But props to George. I do think that this coin is actually better than meme coins. I don't know if it'll get the traction or kind of like the I don't know if it'll get the traction or it'll get the I guess trend to actually go up to like billions of dollars, but actually having a use case that slowly builds with new Clash of Clans players, I can definitely see this becoming a winner. So, I thought like, these YouTuber coins wouldn't last long. This one could last long. I don't know if it's going to get past the bear market. I would be very, very shocked and surprised if it actually did. But, George has actually made something that's actually worthwhile. And I think it's like if you have a little bit of extra money, it is something worth looking at to actually dump some money in, because I don't think this is going to go down before the bull market is over. And it could definitely reach a couple $1 billion in market cap before it's over. And it's only like $60 million right now. So even if it only reaches 600 million, you can get 10x, which I definitely think is possible for a coin where people are holding it for like certain prizes that are ongoing and has sponsorships. I would definitely sell it before the bear market actually hits. But it could actually be a pretty promising coin, at least for this bull run. So that's my thoughts. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.